So if there's one thing that will make you stronger than anything else in the gym almost instantly, it's learning how to brace. And this is the thing that I find myself correcting so often with beginners when they first come to us. What is a brace? It's using our breath and our core muscles to really tighten our core and allow for efficient transfer of force either from the lower body into the bar or even with upper body lifts. An effective brace involves taking a big breath of air but drawing it into the right place and the effective use of our core muscles. And it's one of those things going wrong that are the most common mistakes. So I find that people who perhaps know that they should be using their core but they don't know about taking a breath, they'll often just tense their abs, and that's all they do. They don't take a big breath and they'll just tense their abs and they're not making maximum use of the air that they can draw down. Or if somebody does know that they're supposed to take a deep breath in order to brace, but they don't know how, very often they'll breathe up into their chest. They'll take this big breath into their chest, they're flaring their rib cage, and now they don't have this stable platform to transfer force. So what we want to do is a combination of those things. So the first thing that I like to show people is if you turn sideways, I don't want to be flaring my rib cage up. I want to be bringing my rib cage down nice and flat. Thinking about it like a fire hydrant, bringing that rib cage down flat. The analogy I like to use is that if there's two boxes, if I flare my rib cage, I'm essentially angling one of those boxes. If I wanted to stack boxes in the most efficient and strongest way, I would of course want them flat. I wouldn't want one of them flared, and that's how I like to think of my rib cage. Rather than being flared in this unstable, not very strong position, I want to bring it down nice and flat. From here then, I'm bringing my breath down into my core. A really easy way to make sure you're doing this right is one hand on the tummy, one hand on the chest. And as you take your deep breath, you should be able to move this hand without moving the hand on your chest. So taking a big breath, I can feel it into my lower abdomen, and my chest hasn't moved whatsoever. The other way to check this is to feel that your stomach moves as you take your breath. The same on the sides. You should feel as you tighten, bring those core muscles down and bring that breath down. You feel it on the sides, and the same on the lower back. You should feel the breath coming down into your lower back as well. If you're doing all three of those things at the same time, as well as keeping the ribcage down, we've probably got a nice strong breath. So JB is going to show us what an effective brace looks like in a squat. Before he unracks the bar, and this is particularly important with heavy load, he takes his bracing breath really deeply before he unracks. And that gives him the pressure that he needs to unrack a heavy load. You can see he hasn't flared his rib cage. He's brought that breath nice and low. If it's a heavy load, he'll probably re-brace again before he goes into a squat. Just really top up that air. And then the most important thing you can see is that as he squats, he's not flaring that rib cage. His core muscles remain tight. And that breath is keeping him very, very strong and stable. It's acting like an inbuilt weightlifting belt that he can brace against. Whilst it looks slightly differently for every lift, the principle of bracing applies to every barbell lift, and we can use it to help us whenever we want to transfer force properly. So JB is going to show us what that looks like in a deadlift. It's the exact same process, but with the weight on the floor, it's obviously going to look slightly differently. However, he's still going to go through the same process. He's going to bring the rib cage down. He's going to breathe deep into his core, not up into his chest, and he's going to keep that rib cage nice and down and engaged. With any of these movements, it's often very helpful to take the biggest amount of our brace in a position where we're actually fairly free to breathe. So in the squat, before you unrack the bar, before you've got all that weight crushing down on you, you can take a deeper, more stable brace before you unrack and then top it up. It's the same with the deadlift as JB was showing. Often it's easier to take our brace at the top or before we get too tight in the bottom position. Another point that can help a lot of people is that it's very helpful to re-brace in between reps, particularly with something like a squat or a deadlift. We want to be taking that brace, or that bracing breath in between every rep. So we do one rep, take a breath, take that moment, particularly with deadlifts, you don't need to be holding onto the bar the entire time. Take that bracing breath and then go again in between each rep.